This person said, how can I enforce boundaries with family members who don't respect them?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
That every single one of us has to navigate that at one point or another, right? Because there's just all sorts of people out there. Some of them don't respect our personal boundaries. And so it can be really uncomfortable, can be really scary, it can be really challenging.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's hard, they say family members. I mean, it's so hard when it's family because there is such a balance there.
Yeah, people that you love,
Yeah.
right? People that you care about, people that you want to have relationship with, and yet there's some tension that's there. And sometimes family members are the worst offenders, right? That they maybe feel entitled to have a voice or a say where they're not invited, or rather they can kind of butt their nose in and feel like, well, I'm family, and so I have the right to put my 2 cents in, whether it's invited or not. And so it's important to begin with an understanding of boundaries, that boundaries are really about self-control. Right? The boundaries are not about other control. So sometimes when we're thinking about how do I make a person stop this, or how do I make a person do that, I want them to respect my boundaries. And something inside my little therapist heart cringes a little bit when I hear the question phrased like that, because it communicates a little bit of a misunderstanding about how boundaries work and what boundaries are. That at their most basic level, boundaries are about yes and no. It's a great word picture for it is the front door on your house, right? That if you had no door on your house, just walls, you have a bit of a prison. You'd be trapped inside, and good things couldn't get in, bad things couldn't get out, and we'd kind of be stuck where we're at. And that's a picture of what we call rigid boundaries, right? That our boundaries are too rigid, they're inflexible, they're not permeable, that is, things can't come and go. They're kind of walls, not helpful, right? The other end of the spectrum is like a house with no door on it, right? That anything can come and go, that bad things can come in, harmful things can come in and be destructive. It's not safe, it's dangerous, can be overwhelming if your house didn't have a front door on it. But a good, healthy house that has a front door, which allows you to use a yes and a no and make decisions about what you let in and what you don't let in, what you say no to. And it creates a nice, clear understanding of what's yours, and what's your responsibility, what's inside your house, what's in your yard is yours and your responsibility, and what's not in your house and not in your yard is not your responsibility. So boundaries help us tell the difference between what's mine and what's not mine, and help me use my yes and no in a way that place limits on others. Doesn't necessarily eliminate their impact on our life, but it can place limits and say no to things that are not okay. So it's self-control. It's an important starting place to understand, because when we're talking about family, we have to think about, okay, so if boundaries are about self-control, then what do I have control over? What is in my yard? Then my words, my actions, my choices, those are in my yard. So if I go to Thanksgiving dinner and Uncle Ed is obnoxious and is rude and says and does things that are hurtful towards me, do I have the ability to control Uncle Ed? I don't. I can't make his choices for him. I can't make him be a good boy. I can't make him be respectful or do what he should do in situation. What can I do? What do I have control over? Well, I can be aware of how I'm impacted. That's inside of me. I can use my words to share with Uncle Ed. how his actions and choices impact me. Say that doesn't feel good. I don't like that. That's not fun for me. And that I can express my wishes or wants. Wish you would stop that. I'd like for you to stop that. I can communicate a boundary, which is different than a wish or want, right? Because a wish or want is just, I hope you do this, I wish you would do this, but it falls short of communicating what I'm going to do if that doesn't happen, right? Which is really where clear boundaries are communicated that says, hey, this doesn't feel good to me. I can't be around this. If you're going to continue this, I'm going to have to exit. I'm going to have to leave the space. I can't control you, but I can control me, and I can control whether or not I'm around you. And I can make the choice not to put myself in position of that, which is really key. Like sometimes we can be standing underneath a sewage dump. You can imagine this little sewage pipe hovering over your head, dumping sewage on your head, and be like, I don't like this. Stop it. I want you to stop asserting a boundary. I want you to not dump sewage on my head. But we just stand there under it, right? And we may not have the ability to turn off the sewage pump, but we can move out from underneath it.
Yeah.
And that's something we have control over. So we got to think about, what do you have control over, Tori? What can you do? What are your choices in the situation? And how can you use them, use your yes and use your no in order to navigate those relational situations?
Yeah. The sewage pipe is a very good analogy. Because yeah, I mean, I maybe don't have control of the sewage coming out of it, of what's coming out of it, of
Mm-hmm.
where it's falling, but I can move. And yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to knowing what you are in control over. Yeah, absolutely.
And
And
making
that can be
choices,
hard.
yeah, making choices to respect the value that God's placed in you,
Yeah.
right? That scriptures talk about us guarding our heart, right? And there's this sense that God has given us responsibility over us. He's given us a limited autonomy over our life and the choices that we make and what we do. And so to exercise our autonomy to guard the precious value that God has entrusted in us. I mean, the cross is a message about how valuable our King sees us, our Creator, that He would come and that He would redeem us in order to restore us in relationship to Him. That God so loved that He so valued the world, right? That He came in the flesh to make that exchange. And so for us to not recognize the value that God created in us, the image of God reflected in us, and to guard that and to protect that is really not to fulfill our responsibility that God has given us over our own heart and our own life.
Right. And I think another layer to that can just be heartbreaking is when you feel like your family member doesn't see that. And
Yeah,
and I think,
there's a lot of
I mean,
grief.
I'm sure people have experienced that. I've experienced that in my own life where, if those boundaries are crossed, maybe they're not intending to say that you don't have value, like I'm not going to respect your value, but you're taking it as they don't see me as worthy and valuable of being respected, which
Yeah,
can be really, really difficult.
absolutely. There's a lot of grief that comes with that,
Mm.
right? That we want those that we care about and that we love and our family members to see us, to see our value, to respect the value that God's placed in us, and to validate that we're worthy of being treated with respect.
Mm.
And it really hurts for those that we care about, those that we're close to not treat us as valuable and worthy of respect. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
painful.
Absolutely. But yeah, like you said, it comes down to just knowing your value, knowing what you are in control over, and just setting those boundaries that you can control.
Yeah. And it's also, another piece that's related to that, that a lot of times maybe we don't realize is part of the equation, is it's one thing to know that you need to set boundaries in a relationship with family. It's another thing to be able to do it,
Mm.
right? Those are two two entirely different things.
Right.
And there's lots of folks that are like, hey, this doesn't feel good. Something's not right here. I want to say no to this. I want to change. And yet they don't feel able to. They kind of know what they need to do, but they don't feel able to do it. And one of the keys to being able to do what it is that you need to do is really having the emotional support necessary to do that, right? That every one of us is designed for relationship. Every one of us needs people, and we need people to care for us and support us and be there for us, and that we draw from those resources emotional support and courage and strength to kind of face hard things in life. And if I'm lacking in those resources outside of my family or a particular member of my family, and I lean on that one individual for all of my support, then I am not going to have the resources to draw from to stand up to that individual. That really the relational and emotional support that we have from other healthy people and healthy attachments in our life give us the internal strength that we need in order to actually do what it is we need to do. So if you find yourself not able to do something, not able to establish the boundaries that kind of like in your head would be helpful for you to do, maybe that's because you don't have the relational and emotional resources in your life to give you the strength to actually be able to do what it is you need to do. And so the first place then is to recognize that and begin working on developing those resources in your life.